Apple says App Store appeals process is now live, so developers can start challenging decisions. We had the Fortnite stuff. We have the Hey email client. We have the Facebook stuff and the Microsoft stuff. There's so many different groups. And we have the indie or smaller developers who have had issue with Apple prior to all of this. And we even had all kinds of comments about Apple's policies leading up to WWDC, which was a while back, before any of the high-profile stuff with Epic and all that took place. At that time, Apple was already considering making changes to their appeals process. Not necessarily their policy. I guess the appeals process is part of the policy, but making it easier for appeals to take place. And those changes actually just recently went live. So they were revealed at WWDC in June, but they're live now. And this means developers can challenge Apple over whether their app is in fact violating one of its guidelines. Apple also says developers can suggest changes to the App Store guidelines through a form submission in its online developer portal. So Apple attempting to receive suggestions, negative feedback, suggestions about not just, say, a denial, but also whether or not a policy should exist that led to the denial. And various challenges. Like I read recently about a VPN company who successfully appealed a decision by Apple, even though it looks like they weren't necessarily violating policies in the first place. Apple just has this really restrictive approval process.
Right.
Sometimes companies really don't even know, or developers, especially small-time developers, they don't know this thing keeps getting, I can't get my app approved. And it's a little bit of a guessing game from time to time. And I suppose that Apple's working towards some greater level of transparency at a time where that would be very important, where the press hasn't been all that positive when it comes to developer relationships with the App Store. So they were able to actually sort things out with the Hey email app, which is from the developer Basecamp. But that kind of happened right before everything blew up with Epic and the rest of it. The compromise between Basecamp and iOS was that Basecamp would add dummy accounts to the iOS app, allowing customers to sign up and then transition to a paid account later on the web. So they had a kind of stopgap because the whole thing's been around payments. If you ever want to acquire a customer inside of iOS and then later get them to pay elsewhere, Apple's not going to like it. So you can expect now with this new App Store appeals process that they're going to get an absolute flow of requests from developers looking for some different treatment than what has currently existed within Apple's terms, and plenty of challenges to those actual terms. Now, the good thing here is that Apple can hear directly from the developers and say, we had 1,000 requests to change this particular policy. And now they've got some real data where they can maybe have a better recognition of the exact impact that they're having on developers, or where developers are failing. Ultimately, if developers fail, and I know people saying, okay, Apple is so huge, this is impossible. But if developers fail over and over again, and then they don't develop that next cool app, eventually somebody suffers, right? Everybody wants the best experience and the best product, and Apple will even come out and say it. But if the policies are restrictive to the point where people aren't attempting to build these companies and brands and cool apps and all the rest of it, then all of a sudden it can head the other direction. I'm not suggesting it's there yet, but I'm saying it is a possibility.
So this is a good step.
Well, it's a way.
Apple's listening.
Absolutely. There's at least some level of dialogue now.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you talk to Sweeney from Epic, he'd say, this is nothing. This is lip service. So this is Apple pretending that they're listening. I mean, that's what he would say.
Yes.
But ultimately, I think for the small-time developer, at least they got something
Yes.
going on. So